believe that anyway. Because they say that the cutoff is at 22 to 24 weeks. They usually do not agree with some stupid argument like that. If you say
it's not an argument, it's called Torah. And you said you're a believer.
El Normo, I'm not against you, brother. I just want you to
I'm not either.
I just want you to know this. If you say, I'm just going to respond, because pro-life is probably one of the biggest things for me out of any position that I hold. I am absolutely, look, you can't kill something 8 months in the womb just because the soul comes in, if you believe that, right? Which is fine, but I'm just saying, I'm going after Genesis, and since you're about the Torah, I am as well, Normo. Read the Torah, Genesis 9, verse 6, I believe that's it. It says, look, if a human, notice, if a human sheds innocent human blood, his blood shall be shed, because you are made in the image of God. If you are made in the image of God and you kill an image bearer that's innocent, and you don't have there's no reason for you to do this, like you don't have a justification, which is not given in the scripture. There's no justification to kill your young. You can't just go up and kill your young. You can't. It is the case that it is the case.
Contradict what he says, though.
It is the case that it is a human. It is a case that it's a human. It's a case that it's a human, and it's a case that you're shedding its blood. That's it.
How does that like that doesn't give any evidence, because like he's saying like
I'm not against what he's saying. They're saying the soul comes in. That's fine. If you say ensoulment happens at breath, I don't care. That's not my point. I don't argue on behalf of ensoulment or personhood. This ridiculous term that people want to employ. I don't argue on all that. That's not the thing.
You're saying innocent blood. No, but the point is like if the verse you quoted said something about like the slaying of innocent blood, right?
Like a cave confused like a muddy pool, and
yes, to be a person, right? And if ensoulment happens at the first breath, right? Then personhood starts at the first breath. But that doesn't like.
That's a lot.
I think it's a perfectly plausible interpretation, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of inference. Yeah, no, that's a lot of.
Actually, if I may say something, at 5 to 6 weeks is when the heart beats. In a fetus, so that's the heart starts beating 5 to 6 weeks in the fetal development, and by the time the woman knows that she's pregnant, there's a fetus with a heartbeat.
Yeah, think about that. Killing
doesn't matter.
So if you
with a beating heart, you're killing.
Yeah. So if if we're humans and our heart is not beating, we're non-responsive, we're lifeless. But if the heart is beating, if the heart is beating, that's the sign of life. That's the first sign of recognition of life in a fetal development, basically.
That's actually
and again, the question of dispute
within
is
5 to 6 weeks. Within 5 to 6 weeks that's when the heart starts.
But it's 3 weeks after conception.
It is relevant because it's not when the baby is born and the soul is into the fetus. It's not. If you think about life beginning within the fetal development, right when the fetus, if the fetus does not have heartbeat, that fetus aborts. That fetus has to be removed from the human body because it's a lifeless fetus.
Look, so you're not tracking the conversation. You're not understanding where we are in the conversation. Right now, we're only discussing the implications. Look, I'm just saying, like we're just discussing the implications of what certain biblical verses imply about like fetal personhood and so on, right? Like whatever medical science says is kind of beside the point.
No,
right?
actually, you guys are debating about when the life begins in the fetal development, and that's when you decide whether to get rid of the fetus or not. That's all. That's all the abortion conversation going on for.
But right at this point of the conversation, I was pointing out to Andrew. Like Andrew takes his Bible verses very seriously. I'm not quite sure why, but he does. And so I'm just pointing out like the Bible verses that we've seen so far that have been entered into like this conversation so far. Both are consistent with the view where like personhood starts at birth, right? Because apparently, I mean, look, Andrew, are you disputing that this verse, the verse that El Normo read out, like, is the way it is, right? That, like, personhood, like, that ensoulment happens at birth. So ensoulment happens at birth. And the other thing that the Bible says is that, like, the shedding of innocent blood should not be, like, done or whatever, right? I think the most natural way to reconcile that is to say that blood before birth isn't innocent, because blood before birth doesn't belong to an entity that has personhood, because it hasn't been ensouled yet, right?
Personhood doesn't equal ensoulment, and they don't equal each other.
What doesn't equal each other?
I think we should stick with biological terms, okay? You're mixing up personhood with ensoulment, and then calling that when we can start respecting it.
Well, look, I'm just addressing what Andrew was talking about, right? Because Andrew
just listen. He won't stop talking.
Yes, he did. El Normo used the word soul. El Normo used the word soul. Right. El Normo brought it to...
Just listen.
You don't want to talk about the Bible, that's fine. We talk about biology. But let's stick to one thing.
Content create, liar, fraud, waste,
this
scam.
discussion is more biological.
Congress now.
That's it. And I just wanted to say that it's
spiritually disabled.
I wanted to add that it's 3 weeks after conception that the heart starts beating. So like a week after you've missed your period. The 5 weeks is calculating from the last period. So that's 2 weeks before conception. Normally.
Yeah, but these are anatomical details, right? I don't know why that's relevant. It's about about 2 weeks into the pregnancy, Hox genes start turning on the embryo, right? The embryo actually starts expressing certain genes and certain. Yeah, why is any of this relevant, right? These are anatomical details. What matters is when.
Wait a second.
What matters? I'm not allowed to finish. I mean, look, Michaela, there's a number of times I've spoken up for you when Piper goes after you.
Sorry.
Right?
I know. Listen, I think that we're arguing from the biological point of view, okay? And you want to put value. When you're going to start valuing this individual of the human species, when it meets your criteria of personhood. That, as the other person said, that's sort of a legal definition, or it's philosophical. I mean, it's not really scientific at all.
Well, I agree in the sense that it's not in the sense that it's the main question there is a moral one, right? Which science alone can't answer. Science can give us science can tell us things when does the brain start functioning? When is there some kind of activity in the brain that resembles conscious thought?
Is it a human being?
Well,
is it a human an individual of the human species?
I mean, again, like I said, I don't think that's the relevant question.
Well,
right?
It is relevant. What are you going to value? Are you going to value individuals of the human species if they meet certain parameters that you've sort of arbitrarily set?
Well, not arbitrarily. I think those are those are the values that we. Those are the things we value in every other circumstance.
No.
Right?
Well, because you're living in a culture for a long time that hasn't valued humans at all stages of life, and the culture has put this idea into your head for 50, 60 years since abortion has been legal in the U.S. To disregard the value of every human life.
No, look, I think it's the opposite, right? I think we're at a stage in human culture where we value human lives more than we ever have in the past.
Well, right? Push it up a notch.
But look, I also think we reached a point in our moral discourse, at least some of us have, right, where we kind of introspect about what it is. Why is it that we actually even care about human lives in the abstract, in the aggregate at all, right? And I think the answer.
Robots open. That's going to leave AI open to us calling them persons.
Yes, absolutely. Right, I think if AI can have the sort of interior experiences that humans have, right?
Right.
They deserve personhood.
If you use your definition of what you value, that's what that leaves open. That's what that leaves open. Having that fuzzy definition. That fuzzy definition.
Sorry, what do you mean? 1 second.
Watching the fallout in real time: depression, addiction, suicide, sexual dysfunction, broken relationships, spiritual confusion, and a nation full of citizens who don't even know what home is supposed to feel like anymore. Let's go back. Picture post-World War II America, the strongest economy on earth. Families were intact. Fathers
medium, you can record anytime.
Kids had a lineage, a last name they were proud of. They were raised by a community that cared. Church attendance was sky high. Neighbors knew each other. Marriage was sacred, not just Governor Ronald Reagan, a conservative divorce law in the state of California. He later admitted it was the greatest political mistake of his life. Why? Because that one law cracked the foundation. It told couples, you don't need a reason. You don't need a real grievance. Just say I'm unhappy and the family courts will split you up. No fight, no attempt to reconcile. And those courts, they didn't protect fathers. They didn't preserve the family. They became a divorce industry.
Okay, this is vote John 16th, kind of gross.
No one understands me. If I actually told people how I'm feeling, they would think of me differently. That is a lie that I told myself.
One of the first things which everybody should understand is that every creature in the universe that is in any way sensitive and in any manner of speaking conscious regards itself as a human being. That is to say, it knows and is aware of a hierarchy of beings above it and a hierarchy of beings below it. If you take such a tiny creature as a fruit fly, which lives only a few days, it is aware of all sorts of weird little animals and objects and spores floating in the atmosphere which we don't even notice unless we've got a microscope around, and very few people have. And it criticizes them as being inferior animals and all that sort of thing, whereas human beings are things that it doesn't comprehend. They're as much outside its intellect as a quasar is outside ours. And we see these far-off objects floating in the heavens, and we have only the vaguest idea of what they may be. Actually, we may all be some kind of atoms within the hair on somebody's nose in another dimension. And all these galaxies being the constituent elements. Who knows? But there is, I think, a fundamental principle that everybody must understand in order to know what is the meaning of the Tao, or the Chinese sense of the course of nature, and that is the principle of relativity. It's absolutely fundamental to an understanding of Taoist philosophy, relativity.
No, we don't like your jokes, Steve.
Wow.
So I was gonna say, I'm a little bit torn these days. I used to be rampant like pro-choice, but the reason I say me,
the side of a lot. So that's the whole.
York City was hit with a nuclear weapon, how much would it take to rebuild it? Do you want to know what the cost would be? Anywhere between $5 to $20 trillion, and it would take 20 to 50 years. Okay, so having a Golden Dome operation that can protect this nation, that's just one city.
Have you guys got empathy?
What's the question?
Have you?
No.
He's asking it, stupid. The hell? Who are you talking to? I'm talking to Nathan. Are you retarded? Hey, like he just.
Hold on, y'all.
And she will testify in the case. Everybody understand the assignment?
Yes, Kevin.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
All right. Kevin. All right. So our first real deal case of the night is a man sued his employer for $1 million, claiming he was too handsome to be hired, and his looks made him the target for harassment. So he was too good looking to do well in the company. He was upset that he wasn't getting promotions. He had difficulty being hired in the first place because he was just too damn good looking. So, who would like to be the person suing for being way too hot? And who would like to be representing the company who was basically harassing
That is to say that wherever you are, and whoever you are, and whatever you are, you're in the middle. You know, pick in the middle. That's the game. And you see, just in the same way as when you stand, say, on the deck of a ship, and you can see a horizon all around you to exactly the same distance. You're in the center of a circle because your senses extend a certain direction, in all directions, and therefore give you the impression of being in the middle. Now, everything in the world feels like that. And also it has its own kind, which look natural to it. You see, spiders and hydras and sea urchins and so on don't look very natural to us. We say, well, I wouldn't want to look like that. But they say when they see us, well, what kind of an awful thing is that? And what a lot of nonsense it does. You see, if your dog watches you when you're typewriting, the dog looks at you and says, well, these human beings, especially cats, dogs sort of try to catch on to human beings in a sort of a funny way. But cats look at you and think, you're out of your mind. You're absolutely crazy. What do you sit there all day for, feverishly pecking away at a typewriter, say, or doing something busy like that, when you could sit and curl up and purr?
That room.
You just...
Yeah, that was good. That was a good one.
Yeah, I don't recall, like, remember, say one word about the topic that it was going on. I'll completely remember.
It was all just about the debt and then how our conversation...
Yeah. Okay, all right. The point you were making about the grandkids of selling out, all the bullshit. I was listening. I was cleaning the house, and I was in the background listening to you. I knew that there was something you were saying when I was cleaning the house this morning that was really poignant about what you were saying. And you were being very articulate and, completely to the point about the situation. I was over there shaking my head while I was scrubbing the toilet.
Yeah, it was a long one. That was like an hour long. I recorded it, but I'll go back and listen to it at some point. But that's like every day I just update, my thinking. But it's all there in the news. I mean, Trump is building Golden Dome. I'm like, are they fucking this stupid? Like, arm the population. Like, give us guns. Give us constitutions. I mean, they're fucking destroying the people. Like, it's people are going to work every day to pay for this shit. It's fucking scam. It's such a scam. It's such a subsidy to Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop Grumman.
But the only pushback I would give you on that is, like, it would be the same equivalent to Reagan with the Star Wars program.
It's the same shit.
And
yeah, Bush did the same thing.
Can I finish, dude? Like, what I'm telling you is, like, from the Star Wars program and DARPA, who I've worked with many times on many projects, like, when it gets down to it, like, you know, like our GPS comes from them, our quadcopter drones, like, you know, that's a DARPA technology that quadcopters came out of our DARPA, you know, and now like they're using it on Ukraine battlefields. But we literally developed it, you know, and then we released it for commercial use, and now they perverted it back to the original reason that we built it in the first place.
I know they're talking about it in the other room.
But in the golden dome, like the amount of technology that's going to be developed under that, like I'm in the strategical sense, I'm in agreement with it.
Damn. I'm not at all. I mean, I think the NDAA should be lowered to probably $300 billion a year.
Like fuck the National Defense Authorizations Act. I hate that.
But that's where the money's coming from.
Yeah, and that's where they can also come in your house with like unmarked vehicles and people dressed in black with no identification, steal you out of the house in front of your family, and throw you in Gitmo, and nobody even knows where you're at without due process if you actually read the fucking thing. And they could do that without any approval from anybody. They don't even tell you anything under the executive order.
Well, they did that with a lot of J6 people. They just showed up at their house, and they're like, "Oh, you're in DC? Well, guess what? Now you're going to solitary confinement. Let's go for your ride." I mean, instead, James Comey goes on NBC the next day and says, "I'm being harassed. I was out on a peaceful walk with my wife on the beach." It's so fucking stupid, dude. There are like crazy, psychotic, narcissistic, egotistical, super elite, powerful people that are just like, they're far out there. I mean, they're out of touch with reality, though. That's how far out they are.
All right, but let me ask you this though: when people try to like run narratives on words, like things, like, you know, Comey did that, you know, 8647 shell thing on the beach. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
All right. Do you think that there was a threat against Trump?
Yeah.
I don't think it's shit.
No, I mean, you can't be the former head of the FBI making an indication towards assassinating the president. Like, that's fucking so immature.
Dude, when if you came into my diner when I was a server, and you're like, "Hey, let me get the hamburger, no tomato," and I put 86 tomato, and I'd put it in there, that just means remove the tomato. It doesn't mean kill the fucking tomato.
Yeah, I see your point there, but it's all essentially hypnosis spam. I mean, it is what it is. It's spam. I'm not saying he directly said, you know, let's you know, do what he's implying, but anyways, the point is, yeah, this big back beautiful bill. The only person who is causing a problem is Thomas Massey. All the heat is going on Massey, and Massey's using it to raise millions of dollars for his reelection campaign. I can't get any traction. Meanwhile, my opponent is taking selfies with World War II veterans in Washington, D.C. Like, this guy's propaganda is as good as AOC's, and you know, no one retweets anything, no one likes anything. I can see the statistics that I'm getting views, but I have so few people like actively, you know, even seeing my messaging and supporting it that without money, I can't actually force the messaging. That's the problem.
Well, what kind of money do you need? Like fucking, you know, market time? Because I know that you're a very, you know, intellectual person, but sometimes like your grasp of like what you think media is not what like grabs the popular attention.
No, I know. I mean, it's coming from me. I mean, my messaging is not professional. See, that's the thing is, if I had money, I would hire people to create more unique content. I need to text that guy Augustus because he might be able to help me. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, he would definitely be one of the guys. He's got to be getting busy nowadays.
Of your time this week? Thanks, John. Congressman-elect Kitover. Congressman-elect Kitover, 16th District. Liberty.
Well, if you want to splash my dumbass across any of your shit, I'll give you, like, I'll sign something for you saying, like, you know, you can use my story, talk about my stupidity with my 3 DUIs, all the
That's not. These voters don't want to hear that kind of shit.
But all the alcoholism that I went through, because I had already had my 3rd DUI before I met you. I haven't had a DUI since I've met you. I haven't gotten in any trouble since I've met you. But
that's because you're on clown. That's because you're on Clown House all day long. There's no time to get in trouble when you're trapped in a hypnosis genie bottle. It's a safe space.
You know what I've done today?
I didn't do much of anything other than work out. What did you do today?
Shit, I fished. I cleaned the house. I washed the dogs. I called my buddy. You know, made a couple moves, and then went for a run. Sat my happy ass down. I'm drinking like beer number 4 for the day. Like, I'm just kicking back, man. I've only been on here I've been busy so much today. I bet you I've been on, other than listening to people, like talking, probably less than 3 hours in total. But I mean, if you want to dip out and go to another room and, like, you know, talk about other bullshit, you know, you do you. I'm not stuck in a fucking time loop. I do whatever the fuck I want. And I always have.
Yeah, I know.
And you telling me that I'm in a loop doesn't mean I'm in a loop to me.
No, I'm not saying... Oh, my God. I'm not saying you're in a loop. I'm saying that... I mean, you know how I like to say Clown House is all communication hypnosis? Well, now I just say it's spam, essentially, because either I'm talking spam, like that whole conversation this morning...
Well, the generality of saying all is bullshit in the first place.
Why? All is a good word.
All is inclusive to none other.
Well, the all is a good word. I mean, it's metaphysics, essentially, but, you know. Man.
Nuggets of gold.
Congress is like the most corrupt thing in the world. They create the money. And the Federal Reserve. I mean, it's a yin yang system. Can't have one without the other, because it's basically no one can get away with murder for that long without, you know, complicity or partnership. It takes...
Actually, that's the exact opposite of how you get away with it.
Well, that's not what... That was a bad analogy. What I mean is, it's like the image of the head with 2 faces, and everybody thinks it's just a face with 1 head, or a head with 1 set of lips, but it's really a head with 2 set of lips. So it's hard to detect it, but, you know, I mean, I'm not... See, if you're wealthy and you work in the banking industrial complex and you're pulling down $20 million a year and your family's worth $350 million, like, you're in the upper strata, but $350 million ain't shit compared to somebody with $400 billion or $200 billion or $100 billion or $50 billion. The magnitudes are massive, and you know how hard it is to make money. So if you go from 500 million to 4 billion, that's a huge fucking leap. Because even to accumulate 500 million is damn near impossible. So if you could get to 4 billion, 5 billion, 6 billion, 7 billion, 8 billion, those numbers are huge. And so the system is so incredibly organized. See, this is why the spec, there's not a speck out of place in the whole universe. Meaning that our American system, even though I complain and criticize, I'm technically just trying to accurately describe the situation or accurately diagnose, with absolutely no hope of impact other than, you know, desiring to want to be right in my analysis. But anyways, I'm just saying, you know, we the people is the biggest spam hypnosis statement ever.
I hope you don't talk like this on stage in a debate.
No, and I don't know. What do you think the best strategy is in a debate? What to essentially just? I think it's just attack the person with facts about what they've done and what that means to you,
John,
the taxpayer.
the one thing that you talk about most when you talk about you talk about meditation and
Yeah.
The thing is, you've got all these tomes and everything in your head. You never shut the fuck up in your mind. I don't think you actually understand what Buddha was meaning.
No, I do. I have time out, and I enjoy my time out. There are times where
but you don't convey that in your speech and in the way that you talk to people.
No, I agree with you. I think you see this is why I'm asking you because I've
Ask me.
I've been in a political
ACTS. Ask me.
I ran for junior class president in college and I lost that election. And my after action ready review is essentially he was a lot nicer than I was, and he was much more calm, much more. He didn't have anything interesting or funny to say, but his presence is what won the moment. So it really is about like your aura of positivity, and that implies shutting the fuck up. So I agree with you.
It's also not talking so frantically that you sound like you're on Adderall.
Yeah, I know. This is the problem though with internet.
Well, the youth will hear you, and you'll get votes from the youth if you do have little quips of delirium in your speech.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to connect with also the core of the understanding of what your base is. Dude, I only know this because I was student government treasurer in university, and I was student government secretary also. And I've ran for office twice, but it was only in student government in university. But it kind of correlates to the same thing, I think. Obviously you're on dealing with a bigger stage.
No, I mean I'm only hyper verbalizing now because this is the end of it. But this has been a long day of bullshitting here on Clown House. And
well, you made some good points, man. I'm telling you, I was impressed just listening. I was like, I know that motherfucker. I was literally listening to you thinking that because you were giving a lot of good fucking pushback. And it wasn't you just being a dick, just pushing back and trolling them. You were actually, punching them in the teeth with facts. And I didn't have a problem cleaning my toilet. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I got a lot of things I got to do. I mean, I meant to do it all today, but I didn't do anything. But, I got so many things I got to do.
Well, you need to go exercise and take care of that gout first. But,
No, I already did that. I did that already. And I could feel it on the treadmill. I worked it out. 30 minutes on the treadmill, man, wow. It's just like, if you could do an hour, it'd be maybe even better. But 30 minutes, I feel like, is even an accomplishment daily. Most people don't get on a treadmill or walk for 30 minutes.
I go do my run, but I go over to my buddy's house, probably a couple times a week, and he has this recumbent bicycle, and I'll just sit there, and I'll get my heart rate up to about 140 while I'm sitting there, bicycling, and I'll just sit there and talk with him, and I'll be sitting there riding, and you hold on to the handles, and it'll tell you what your heart rate is. I just hold it at 140, and I just sit there for 30 minutes and ride. Because you can sit on your ass and pedal a bicycle. I like the recumbent bike, and then when I was in the Army, I would always do my heavy lifting first, because cardio will hurt your workout, but your workout will never hurt your cardio. You know what I mean?
Wait, your cardio can hurt your cardio can hurt your workout, but your workout can't hurt your cardio?
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Like if you go run track and field, and you get lactic acid buildup and doing your cardio burn while you're running track and field, and then go straight to the workout gym and start hitting heavy weights, you're pushing lactic acid into your muscles even further. So your cardio is hurting your workout. But when you're working out in the gym, you do your weights first, and you get your workout up, and then you go out at the end and you'll do your run and get your lactic acid buildup. But then, you start doing your fluid flushes, like protein mixes and creatinine and whatever. But yeah, you always run at the end. You never run at the beginning.
Really? Because I mean, I'm not even running. I'm just doing like wind sprints, for 2 minutes.
Well, I'm just saying, when I say run, I mean cardio.
Yeah.
Whatever your stick is. I mean, I like the ellipticals.
I don't really use the ellipticals.
Well, I had a knee injury when I was in the Army, and running on a treadmill hurt like hell while I was going through therapy. But I could do the elliptical because it was like zero impact on my knee.
When I was younger, I played my bosses at work in basketball, and I popped my knee out of its joint. Man, that shit took like a year to finally recover. That was painful. That was like a bad twist. So, I saw this when I was at when I was in Fort Lewis. This girl.
Me too. Yeah, Washington. Yeah.
Yeah, this girl's climbing up this obstacle, and she fucking falls. I don't know. It was like a bad luck fall or something, and she just fucking busted her ass so hard and broke her leg, and she was out. And so at the graduation, our we didn't have drill sergeants. We had an officer and like a, I don't know, E7, I guess. And
this is ROTC. Okay.
Yeah, it's called Warrior Forge. They call it something different now.
Jeez Louise.
And so our sergeant was, maybe it was the officer. The officer was like, "Look in the crowd. There's Lieutenant Sarah. She came back to see you guys because she's so proud of you all. And she's, so sorry she couldn't be here with you." And that was when I started laughing. I was like,
mad bored.
She couldn't be here with us. She fucking,
She's a sick call ranger.
She fucked herself up. I mean, some people, it's like, people don't have that upper body strength. And, the one obstacle you climb up and then you rappel down on this, metal cable. Some of these bitches, as soon as they left the platform, they immediately lost their grip. And they just plummeted. Quite a fall, 120 feet. Yeah, I don't know. But that shit.
In the water or into a net?
In the water. And these bitches didn't know how to swim. Like, it was crazy.
See, I literally left AIT, and I got to go home for like 4 days. And then I went to Fort Lewis on an airplane. And I showed up at night. I went into this processing center, when you're doing transition and shit. I signed a whole bunch of shit. They gave me a whole bunch of equipment. And then I ended up getting pushed out and got onto another plane and ended up in Germany. So I mean, my time at Fort Lewis is at night, looking at shit. I don't know shit about it.
Yeah, it's an old.
Really,
it's old.
My unit was 125. First to the 25th, the electric strawberry, the fig leaf with the lightning bolt in it at Fort Lewis. But they reflagged us, and they reflagged us, to 2nd Stryker Cavalry Regiment, because they took 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment away from Fort Polk, Louisiana, and it wasn't armor anymore, it was Stryker. And then we transitioned into Strykers, because the APCs were working better than anything else.
Do you remember when the war kicked off and they did this like rapid? I mean, it wasn't fast enough, but they fucked up because all the Hummers and all the APCs didn't have like heavy.
No, they weren't. None of them were up armored at all.
Yeah, what the fuck?
At all.
What the fuck? Why wasn't that even a consideration?
They were so ill-equipped to be in that battle. It was stupid.
Why did it work in the first Gulf War? You know, with Schwarzkopf, but
because we never went in.
yeah,
We kicked their ass
exactly.
And then we just left.
Exactly. They didn't really go in. It wasn't an occupation. It was all fucking airstrikes on that highway of hell.
Yeah, we had the A-10 just laying fucking waste of like tanks all over the fucking desert. And then you had that like Denzel Washington movie with Meg Ryan, like about that bitch that was a tank commander or a helicopter pilot and died or whatever. You know. Like you know, that was like the battle cries of the day back then.
Diddy's $61.5 million LA mansion remains unsold nearly a year after being listed.
Dude, can you imagine how many bodies are like, you know, buried somewhere?
He listed the house just a week before his September 2024 arrest. Man, I wonder what's gonna happen to that guy.
I don't really honestly give a shit.
I just hope he fucking goes to jail for life.
Like I grew up in the hip hop industry as a fan, not as an influencer or anything that had anything to do with it, but as a fan. But I'm so old that, you know, I get the grandpa pass into the hip hop like understanding of the universe, and these motherfuckers have been degenerates since I was a teenager. Like I knew this shit back then, but who the fuck am I? And now, because it's gone on for so damn long, and the people that had the power and the wherewithal didn't do a damn thing, I don't really give a fuck anymore. I'm just ready to throw down anytime anybody wants to fucking come at me.
Well,
shit, I don't give a fuck about that fucking like popular new snitching ass pop culture version of itself. I ain't no snitch. Bro.
Well, there was shit about Obama today and Diddy about how Diddy is drug dealer. Like Obama was actually meeting with him. Like there was all this shit that came out about Obama and Diddy today that was like, man, Obama's just fucking. He's his own fucking godfather, you know? Motherfucker's a gangster. I mean, fucking, he's Slick Willie, but black. He's
no,
a biracial
Obama's
Slick
name
Willie.
did not come up in court today from somebody.
No, not court. X platform. Dom Luca.
I know they had like what, eight male prostitutes that used to be paid to go to Diddy parties to testify. They got a lot of witnesses. I'm just saying. That jury's gonna be like, they're either like, I don't give a fuck, or that motherfucker is the weirdest motherfucker on the planet, and we need to put him under the jail. I don't really have a figure on what the jury's thinking right now. I've heard a lot of crazy shit. That's all I know. Like everything that Cassie, like, if you were her husband, would you kiss her in the mouth ever again after that testimony? Would you let her kiss the kids with that mouth?
Have you ever been to El Salvador?
place to go.
Yeah, it does. This fucking looks amazing.
Dude, honestly, like if I was gonna go anywhere on the planet, that'd probably be the first place I would go.
It looks fucking great.
I'd go straight to like some beach resort.
There's some beautiful women there, man.
Drink some. Oh, give me one of them like fruity drinks that you put a little piece of fruit on the side with little umbrellas with a straw. And I hope it's a bendy one. And I'll sit there and drink that and sit on the beach, catch a tan, and watch ass all damn day.
Let me look up the average annual income in El Salvador.
Oh. As a retirement plan? I love their president, by the way.
Yeah, I'm surprised a lot of Americans see dude. The average annual income in El Salvador is $5,000 a year.
Jeez Louise, we need to go.
The average monthly income is $700.
Oh my God, bro!
Holy
you show up with
shit.
$1,500 and the airline tickets paid for on return trip, bro. You got $1,500 in your pocket. You got a third of a year's worth of and if you're there for a week, you're spending 3 months worth of pay in a week. Bro, you be living high off the titty. We be going 5-star restaurants, hanging out with women. We gotta maybe go over and buy a suit from somebody, go to some high classes top end restaurants. Sheesh. I like rubbing elbows with people that I know.
They say Guatemala's even cheaper.
Yeah, Guatemala. Yeah, I bet it's not El Salvador. El Salvador is I know that's where they got that big ass prison and all that bullshit. But honestly, I love that country. Honestly, their president. If I was ever gonna run a country, I'd try to be kind of like him. Somewhere between him and Ibrahim, Toro. How do you say his name? Was it Burkina Faso?
There's only 2 fucking hospitals. Oh man, groceries are going to range from $150 to $500 a week. Electricity is $200 a month. Damn, it's fucking same price here. People in the chat say that
kilowatt.
They say even though they've imprisoned all the gangbangers, there's still an incredible amount of violence and crime.
Well, I'd rather go there than Tunisia.
I worked with this El Salvadorian chick. She was so hot. And I couldn't believe it. She had a kid. She was like a single mom. I was like, you have a kid? Holy shit, you're so young. I was like, oh my God, but you're so hot.
Yeah, I was the kid in that scenario when I was growing up. I had the hot mom. All my friends' dads that were single were like, "Hey, is your mom available?"
Damn. Yeah, pretty women. They don't go out. They go out in their late 40s. Is when their tide starts turning. But if you really kick it, even into your early 50s, you can still look like you're in your 30s.
Yeah, I'm talking about, my mom was single since I was 4. And when I was 4, that was 1979. So when I grew up, and my mom was hot, and my mom had me when she was 21. So when I was 4, she was 25. And she had one of those Daisy Duke. Honestly, she looked kind of like a Daisy Duke, but in her own kind of way, but in a pretty way. And back then, like I said, my buddies that were in school, I didn't realize they were trying to be my buddies because their dads were trying to tell them to be buddies with me so they could figure out if my mom was single. I ain't even kidding you, man. That's what the internet was before the internet. And party line before there was Clubhouse. That That's what this reminds me is that party line. When we used to call in the number and everybody in your area, you could just talk and then everybody talking all the time. That's what this reminds me of. Did you ever do that back in the 80s? Party line?
No, I was too young.
Oh, okay. So how goes it besides the lack of money for marketing, within the scheme of things? Are you lined up for debates, or you set up for like doing door knocking? What are your game plans?
I was thinking about posting on Craigslist to find MAGA Republicans in the two main towns that are in the 16th district, and then setting up just basically inviting them to clubhouse rooms to discuss issues, and try to build and start there digitally, and then in the summer driving out to Rockford, and holding events at bars and restaurants, and trying to do speaking engagements. So those are my two ideas.
Do you have the ability to access a VFW?
No, I'm just an American Legioner. I mean, you can go. Anybody can go to a VFW, but I'm not a member of VFW.
All right. Well, go in there. VFW, the Legion. I'm a member of Chapter 1000, Military Order of the Purple Heart. We're down here, at the Mason Lodge. You find out where we're all at. Like, you could find some people that will actually give you, access to the MAGA, core base ideology that you're looking for. Because it's not necessarily the younger crowd that you're wanting to personify. It's the older values that have been, whitewashed over the past years. Whether whitewash means like, oh, it's a white, systematic oppression of racism, or white people are the only people that can be racist because they have the power, or whitewashing to just keep rechanging the definition of words to make fucking shit make fucking no fucking sense. Right? You can find those kind of people.
Yeah, they're called abortionists.
Amen. That means so it shall be. Because those people are the wackiest people I can think of. Dude, I love my new dog, man.
Oh, you got a new dog?
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, you know that I had Georgia and Coda, but somebody about like a year ago stole Coda. And Georgia's like just had to deal with me and my dumb ass, so she's been super depressed. And about like almost a month now, I was driving down this dirt road in my truck, and like this person like they were in front of me, and I kept like a football field distance between us, because on dirt road you don't want to run up on people. And so I was just hanging back. They kind of slowed down, so I slowed down. They stopped, and all of a sudden they opened up the door and they threw this bulldog on the fucking road. And we were way the fuck out. There wasn't no farmland, or it was all farmland. There wasn't a farmhouse probably for a damn mile in any direction. Like I said, there was no water or food for this dog in a mile in any direction. So they spun off and they took off and they blasted off. I pulled over and I got her, and she looks damn near like Georgia, but half the size. Georgia's a pit bull and she's a bully bull. which is like a smaller version of a pit bull. You know, so, but they're both black and white, and they look kind of the same with their coloring. And George has been happy because, you know, she's got a buddy now. And she's not by herself and having to deal with me. So, yeah, life's been good, man. You know, I wish you success in your endeavors, man.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I mean, it would if I win, it would be like a fucking miracle, and it would be so hilarious and crazy to believe, uh, that I actually got the position. It would be like a miracle. And I did this one press news. I don't even know if she published anything, but I sent her this statement that I wrote up in like an hour. And yeah, I mean, there's 10 major towns in the district, and you're talking about towns with like 10,000, 15,000, 25,000, 50,000, up to close to 1 million. So all I'm doing is hashtagging and geotagging on Instagram, and the guy who I'm running against, Darren LaHood, he definitely knows that I'm running and that I'm targeting him on X and these other platforms and shit posting him, and calling for his Doge. But this woman today, she called me, and she's from this nonprofit in Washington D.C. called Term Limits, and so she asked me to sign a term limit, guarantee. And so I said, send me Darren LaHood's signature that he signed, and he signed it, and he's been in office 10 years. So he's overextended himself by 4 years already. And so I just posted that. If you had X, you could see it, but I'm roasting him now for violating his own oath of term limits of three terms. So anyways.
Yeah, but it's a game. It's a politician. They all fucking lie. They
I know, but who's gonna give it up?
And, yeah, oh yeah.
It's it's
hard. It's hard to unseat an incumbent.
Yeah, I mean, you get a nice pension out of it, but the thing is, it's like, man, Illinois is so fucked up.
What are your 5 main things that you want to do if you get the authority of that chair?
I mean,
what are your 5 main? Don't be Kamala Harris and tell me like, well, then the bus and then the Venn diagrams and that, like, don't be that. Tell me what you want as your 5 main policies if you get the authority to do so.
I mean, that's like asking me if I was made king of the world or president, like what would I do? I mean, I've
what is it? What is the authority of the position that you're getting? Do you think that there is authority in it, or do you think it's just like you sit there and wait to represent?
Well, one of your authorities is the credibility of creating content underneath the official position. So, for example, Google, Facebook, YouTube, etc., they can delete you if they think you're spam. But if you're an elected official, you're no longer considered spam, and they're actually legally obligated, to uphold your freedom to distribute information. So that's one of the amazing things that happens when you actually win an elected office, because now you're an official of the public. But I mean, the policies, obviously.
I get it. All right, so verified accounts, cool.
Anyways, exactly. But listen, the whole thing is to just go to us.clock.org and look at the largest line items on the budget and know that if we keep spending this way.
I'm talking about your position for the chair you're running for.
Yeah, I'm telling you what the communication is that I would put out. I mean, but the power is really just budgets and acts. So it's all about essentially establishing budgets and getting and submitting those packages to the Federal Reserve. That's what they're doing.
What is the budget for your district, per annum, typically?
well, that's all in the townships. Like the congressional representative doesn't establish the budgets of the townships or the cities in his district.
Oh, you're running for rep. I thought you said Senate.
Oh no. I should have fucked.
Never mind.
I'm gonna file for Senate
Never
next
mind.
time. I'm filing for Senate
Never
next
mind.
time. Do you know how long?
Never mind.
Doc, do you know how long it took me to file for Congress? 15 minutes. That's all it takes. Is 15 fucking minutes.
People run for president as Darth Vader. No shit.
Well, I was just it's just flummoxed. It blows my mind that in fact you should just run every single cycle. There's no downside to submitting your name to the FEC website for 15 minutes. It's like that shit should be on auto for a lot of people. I mean, this is so ridiculous. Nobody runs, man. There's nobody even interested in this shit, and it's the biggest game there is. That's the weirdest thing that blows my mind is, how am I the only person that filed to run? It's so fucking cringe.
The problem is, like, I think America is starting to hyper-focus on the people that actually want to be public servants rather than the ones that are trying to milk the system the way that you just described.
But the system has been milked. There's no milk left. It's totally bankrupt.
You want to there's always tough titty, said the kitty, but the milk was still good.
It's only still good because we just artificially create the milk. But milk's real. Dollars are fucking artwork.
No, we are the milk.
No, we're not the milk. The spice must flow.
Shit.
The spice must flow. That's what Donald Trump said today.
We have thousands of such caches, and one day we will change the face of Iraqis.
Donald Trump is technically the emperor, and the spice must flow. And there is this navigation guild, which wants Paul Atreides dead. And guess who Paul Atreides is? Thomas Massey.
In the whole.
Thomas Massey. The new Ron Paul. Thomas Massey.
Oh, Jesus Lord.
So have you talked to Pink Taco yet, aka Roger Mayhem, on here?
I haven't seen Mayhem in a long minute.
He's back. He's got a new profile called Pink Taco, and he's hosting rooms like every night now.
No, I haven't seen him.
Oh well, you got to go in there and talk to him. I think you were talking to him yesterday.
Roger is very tumultuous.
Dude, you were talking to him yesterday.
Yeah, well, I didn't know it was Roger.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'd have been pissing on each other's legs.
Okay, come to this room. It's called Screw These Rooms. Blow, Jake, tape, Jack.
Is underemphasized in our country in the modern day is humility. Humility to admit when you're wrong. Humility to admit when you're getting in the way. Humility to admit you don't know everything. Right? I think that lack of humility, and I'll be my own personal religious self for a moment. These are my religious views, not something I think ought to be mapped onto politics. God asks us to be humble in order to serve Him. We're supposed to be apart from the world. We're supposed to be, as Christians, the light of the world, right? And that requires us on a daily basis to be humble. Same with folks who
But that's just like saying have a positive vibration, Marshall. Hum.
Yes, I'm aware that there is a actual vibration of the world. More what I meant was I don't usually share my religious views, and I'm sharing them. And my religious view is that humility is one of the things that God asks of us while we're on earth to do His bidding. And so on a non-political nature, humility it begets better conversations. If you're humble, you can oftentimes get somebody to agree or move on an issue, when if you're just straight out and there's no humility involved, you're far less likely to get that person to do what you want. So I couldn't agree more, Holly.
So, thank you for having me, Holly and Matt.
Jerry, what's up?
What's up, baby? That is me holding the copy of the original Sin that I got down. Me and Marshall both live down here on the border. I got down at the Barnes & Noble. Hey, I want to be honest. This is the first book I'm going to read cover to cover since James and the Giant Peach in 3rd grade. But I'm gonna read this motherfucker. And
Are you sure you can still read? That's a lot of years that went by.
It's been a few years. It's been a few years, but I just want to tell y'all, many of the people in Clubhouse, I love the Clubhouse people. I come into these rooms like Politically Correct with Patty and them. I love them girls, the First Lady and them, and some of these other houses, PhD. I notice how silent it has gotten. Nobody wants to talk about the biggest scandal perhaps since Nixon. This is the Iraq War for the Democrats. And if you're going to call your house politically correct and you refuse to talk about the fact that in October 23, on record, the man could not remember the difference between 2018 and when his son was deployed in 2008. I'm gonna say that one more time. The man couldn't. And they savaged the man Robert Hur. I remember how he was partisan and called his head and feeling. Robert Hur was kind.
You don't understand what life's about at all.
Can you hear me in the back? Let me knock on wood. Robert Hur was kind. Because once you hear that recording, and he asks him about the time period between 2017 and 2018, what he was doing with his papers, and then Biden brings up his son Beau, who died tragically in 2015. Robert Hur didn't bring that up, and goes on some meandering. I didn't even know what the fuck he was saying for 4 minutes. I was like, what the fuck is he going? And you know what he sounded like? He sounded like somebody's grandpa at 80-something years old that's no longer really with us. That was October 2023. Holly, I'm sorry, I'm taking your stage for a minute. I'm black, and I don't know, I'm running my mouth a little too much after I have Johnny Walker. Just give me some grace.
You got it, go for it.
I voted for this man. I voted for Kamala, and I voted for Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is one of my favorite politicians of all time. He really is. But to sit up there after listening that in October of 23 and then tell the American public that this man was fit to serve another 4 years is the most asinine and fraudulent. It was a defraud of America, and that's what some people need to be charged with. I'm going to start with Joe Biden. And I love Joe Biden. But I start with you, because if I start mumbling and fumbling and don't know where I'm at, and I don't recognize George motherfucking Clooney, hello, and I've read part of the book, I did not recognize his national security advisor. Could you imagine if George?
You're talking about Comey, not Clooney.
No. He's talking about Clooney. The former president of the United States.
I'm confused.
Recognize George Clooney.
Yeah, I know you're confused, dog. That's why you should shut the fuck up.
I thought you said the supervisor. I was like Comey and.
No. He didn't recognize George Clooney, and he didn't recognize his own national security.
National security. Yeah.
No shit. I didn't hear about that. I apologize.
You got to read the book. Go down to the Barnes & Noble and go get the book. It's $5 off. You get it for $29.32.
Fine.
I'll
download it audible.
I'll cash app you 10 so you can read it. Hang on. Hold on. I ain't done yet. The man also did not recognize his own, didn't know the name, couldn't think of the name of his press secretary. Hello. Could you imagine George Bush not knowing who Condoleezza Rice was? It'd be a fucking national scandal. They'd wheel his ass out the motherfucking house. Could you imagine? George H.W. Bush not knowing who Colin Powell was? Immediately. Wheeling out there. So, sir, you got to go. We got to sit you down. But then we're going to tell us, and this is the travesty, if the Democrats listening, Lang, I see you down there.
Don't just see a place, taste it.
Lang,
The locals that know it best. Make
I see
pastries
you
in
down
Paris.
there. Deborah, I see you down
These
there.
fast. Make ancient gelato
The
in Rome with a
travesty
fifth-gen
of
artisan.
it, and why the Democrats who voted for Kamala should be so pissed off,
Experiences now on Airbnb.
is because you probably would have won this election had this fraud not been perpetuated on the American people. I absolutely believe that. Had you had a Democratic primary,
for the
and
sale
it might have been,
and ends up
it
buying
might have been
everything full
Gavin
price.
Newsom
Every time I
or
try to do
Shapiro,
it never.
or maybe even Kamala Harris. I don't know. Whoever came out of Democratic.
Trent, you don't know shit. You don't even read books. You just come on Clown House and talk about reading books.
I told you I was going to be almost done.
Land your plane.
I'm going to tell you this. I'll be honest. The person who came out of the Democratic primary, this is why Democrats should be pissed, probably beats Trump. But the fact that they sat on it and hit it, and I'm going to tell you one more thing, Matt. Not only after October, they stopped holding cabinet meetings. I've never even heard of that. I didn't know that was fucking possible. They stopped holding cabinet. They only had one cabinet meeting in between October of 23 and June when we saw the debate and when we all saw the fucking debacle. And it was about 5 people, and I can't remember all. I got their names down somewhere. It was 5 people who had coalesced and hid this. And then we listened to Joe Biden and Hunt and the family tell you that Grandpa was okay when he was on his way down the street with the kids about to kill people on the school bus. This was
the problem is, Trent.
I'm almost done, baby. I'm landing the plane. I promise. Put your tray tables up. Put your seat back. Okay, I'm landing the plane. This needs to be investigated. And then the last thing I'm gonna say, there's no way no, I'm not gonna go there. I'm just gonna tell you this. I have talked to multiple people in the medical field that yes, you can miss cancer. It is possible to miss cancer, but it is not possible, even with the best healthcare, to be diagnosed. That they think you have cancer on Monday, and then come back and know what type of cancer and the treatment on Friday. Because you have to go through testing and figure it out. So there is the story that they knew that this is stage 4 metastasizing cancer in 5 fucking days that is not true. That every physician knows out there that that's not fucking possible, because you wouldn't know how to treat it once it got to the bone, because they have to do tests to figure out what it's responding to. So it is actually likely now that these people knew that this man had cancer, right? I don't believe that they didn't know that he had cancer during the presidency. That they actually knew that he had cancer and still tried to perpetuate this fraud upon you. I'll land. Thank you.
So, all right, wait. I'm sorry, honey. Before you go, I just want to give this too, because I don't want you to get too hung up on Biden. It could have been anyone. I have a problem with Kay Granger. Let's talk about that for a quick second. Let me just contribute that. She's a GOP senator, I believe, who in December 2024, she was MIA for months. She's still on the payroll. Guess where she was? She was in a senior living facility with dementia. I mean, so this is an issue that I'm glad Jake Tapper is bringing to light of, like, yes, it's delicate, it's embarrassing, but we cannot be gaslit, okay? We cannot put this shit in the shadows. If there are journalists that are willing to ask deeper questions about mental acuity, they should not be lambasted, fired, or what have you, put in a dungeon of you're just despicable for not towing the party line. That is my issue, guys.
Yeah, I agree. You have to tell the truth. Like, Joe Biden in 2016 was a much different Joe Biden than in 2021.
But you guys are leaving out the part about who was making all the decisions.
Hold on. During his presidency, one of the things that you could definitely see was the difference between him and his first 2 states of the Union. His first 2 states of the Union, he was gregarious. He was the man from the Senate that everybody knew, right? He was the dealing and wheeling Joe Biden that everybody liked. And after that, would you like to say something? Or did you accidentally leave your mic open?
No, this is TA Cindy. You're gonna have to kick her.
What the hell?
Yeah, sorry, Cindy. I thought you were talking to me. But the decline that you can see is really one of those things that's an issue, right? And I think at least on a political.
Are you fucking shuffling cards?
Hold on. On a purely political measure, the fact that the Democratic Party had to admit he wasn't up to the task with the debate, instead of using the criticisms Republicans had been making for, at that point, about 2.5 years, at least to me, indicates that key Democratic leaders had their heads put in the sand. I know for a fact that Pelosi backed Biden up until the very end of the debate performance. After that, she was like, Joe, you got to go.
Well, the point I was trying to make about that, Marshall, and it completely concurs with what you're saying, is like, you know, when I ran a hematology blood lab, a PSH, like a prostate stimulating hormone test in one of my analyzers, where I loaded up my reagents, my cuvettes, and I maintained a machine, and I ran my controls every morning. Like, dude, that was like the doctors had those results.
Full progress.
The doctors had those results for all that time. You don't get a PSH at a stage 5 out of the fucking blue when you have the healthcare.
That's actually something really weird happened today. So I forget the name of the guy. He's the guy who the disgraced the Dilbert cartoonist.
The Dilbert cartoonist.
Yes, Scott Adams. He's actually somebody who's a heavy critic. Okay.
Yeah, he owns his own podcast, right?
Yes, and he has money and access to medical care. He's somebody who came out today and said, look, I was diagnosed with the same thing. I hopefully have a few more months to live. It caught him by surprise, basically. And so he was saying, like, look, guys, this can happen. I'm not a medical expert, so I really cannot.
When's the last time you had a finger in your butthole checking your prostate and getting a blood draw?
Shut up, Doc.
You don't know what you're talking about, you dumb Corsican.
Okay. Why don't you talk about the fact that your medical license was revoked?
Oh man,
because you're a dumb fucking drunk. So at the end of the day, okay, you don't have any medical expertise in this fucking room. You're a dumb fucking pathological lying drunk.
And I'm not a half white, half black guy that's like pretending not to be gay.
Dude, it doesn't matter. I understand. There's a big difference between being like a paramedic, an EMT, a medic in the military, and being a fucking, not only a medical doctor, but a fucking specialist that literally, like a urologist, that would actually, this is like their forte. I mean, to sit here and act like we know the fucking answers, which I obviously don't. I mean, I just think a lot of people, they rush to judgment without knowing it, enough. I mean, you literally have to listen to experts, which I'll have to do myself and see how likely is this to have happened.
I ran a blood lab for years for quality medical care before I ever even went to RN, bro.
Isn't coming through. I would like to not yell. Pepe, I understand what you're saying. There are times when people, they go to the doctor, they feel fine, and, oh yeah, by the way, you got 2 weeks to live. That does happen, yes. But as people remind me about how old I am all the time, starting at age 50, they start tracking I forget what it's called, but they start tracking the output of your prostate. And they know, okay, at this age, it should be this. There's usually starts increasing slowly, and if it jumps, etc., we need to do this. And yes, they will do a prostate exam in which they can feel it, etc., etc. So, yes, there are surprises, but generally speaking, we can assume Biden as president at least should have had all of these medical tests done. That's what, I believe was normally done. And that the only surprise would be that it traveled to his bone. That would be the only surprise.
That is the part that I think we're surprised by because like he had like his own personal doctor while he was in the White House, and yes, I mean, obviously a lot of this does not sit right. So, but once again, I do have to. I understand Pepe. I heard Pepe. Like you're cool, Trent. Go ahead.
I want to tell you something. Because look, and I know about Scott Adams' diagnosis, and yes, you can be shocked and find out a cancer has spread without knowing. Though we did know that he had an enlarged prostate in 2019, according to his own medical report. What I was talking about specifically,
it's not the vaccine. It's not the vaccine.
So what?
It's not a radioactive disc up above my prostate to get rid of the prostate cancer.
Shut up, Doc. Finish.
Yeah. So what they put out on Monday that they had found nodules, right? They put out on Monday that they had found nodules, and he was going back to have that examined. What is not possible from their doctors are all talking about this out there. You can talk about what is not possible is to know on Friday that it appears to be responding to a hormone sensitive management. That's the part, that was the extra part that they put in that led you to know that you don't find and think that, oh yeah, you got cancer that spread, we got cancer. And then on Friday you come back and you say, hey, you got a tumor that spread, you got cancer that spread to your bones, and we know it's going to respond to hormone treatment. You wouldn't know that. That was the detail that they put in that took it too far.
So, like, when it metastasizes...
You're talking... how many physicals does the president get per year?
Stop. I don't know.
This is Pepe.
Oh, my God.
I know that
You're so fucking annoying. Be quiet. Be fucking quiet. Nobody cares. Nobody fucking cares. Be quiet.
The question, I think most people would have, I'm not an oncologist, I'm not a urologist, I don't know any of this shit. But like when
then why are you fucking talking about?
Oh my God! Is that because the fucking question is
Doc,
that
you're not
relevant.
a fucking doctor. Like you're not. You're a dirty ass fucking CNN. Be quiet.
When I'm drunk,
Jesus
be
Christ.
quiet. I'm smarter than you, bitch.
Okay, amazing.
Okay.
But like when it comes to something metastasizing, like how quickly does it, like with prostate cancer, how quickly can that occur? I have no fucking clue. I have no fucking clue.
All right, when you get to 40, you get the first poke up the tailbone. They look and they feel with that finger, and they're like, "Oh, yep, it's small."
That's not
and then,
true.
And then you get it. And if it was normal, then you wait 5 years, and at 45, you get another one. And if it's still normal, you wait another 5 years.
He's at advanced age, and he literally had his own fucking personal doctor.
Here's the main point.
He was muted.
Here's the main point.
Go ahead, Alan.
Here's the main point of all of this. Because of this diagnosis, Democrats are now saying that there can be no more discussions about the auto pen, about the corruption, about who was running the government, about his cognitive decline. We can't talk about any of that because now that he's been diagnosed with cancer or has this diagnosis, we have to leave him alone and not say anything about him anymore. We need to move forward, and that is the BS. Okay, let me say for all, for whatever contingent of the Republican side there is. Yes, it's sad that this has happened to him. But we are going to continue to investigate both his actions and anyone else's actions who committed fraud against the American people.
They abandoned their parents.
A Harvey Weinstein in a wheelchair in prison because he groped a few women, then we can put a ex-president who has prostate cancer in prison as well.
Mind you, Alan, I just want to insert this fact, okay, that Harvey Weinstein, Jennifer Newsom, her allegations were not guilty. So again, at the end of the day, people want to argue, the whole Harvey Weinstein thing. Look at the same type of bad actors in the Democratic Party in how their wives, solicited campaign funds and, did the things that they did where, these charges were not found guilty against Harvey Weinstein as it pertains to the Gavin Newsom case.
Yeah, so look, that was the first thing I thought of. But, it's like they literally, the left for 4 years, literally went after Trump and tried to put him in jail. They indicted him. They arrested him. They even... there was an attempt on his life, and the left was like, gee whiz, we're sorry the guy missed. There will be no sympathy for Joe Biden and his sudden diagnosis or sudden.
That's really sad, Alan. Look, I don't like the guy. I don't like the guy as former president. But not to
here comes the rhinos.
Stage 4 cancer diagnosis is not the way to do things.
Marshall,
comes the rhinos.
Marshall,
it doesn't have anything to do with being a rhino.
No. Oh God.
The guy was the fucking former president of the United States.
Yeah, we know. Daddy Bush and Daddy Biden are all buddies.
It doesn't have anything to do with that. The idea that one would not show any.
My family is real close with the Bidens.
Being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer means that we're doing shit we shouldn't be doing. The Democrats do that shit.
Oh God, run an interference, Marshall.
Marshall, I agree with you that it's a sad state of affairs. Okay, but the Democrats broke precedent when they went after Trump. If your enemy is throwing hand grenades at you, you get your own hand grenades and you throw them back. If they start using
tanks... I'm not arguing that you don't throw hand grenades.
Okay. Wait. The bodies are part of our family.
Can I ask a logical question?
Oh my God.
Somebody, Marshall, everybody.
He's got to defend Biden.
When he was president, and prior to being president, his son-in-law is a plastic surgeon. He was doing all kinds of shit to his face. He did his eyes, he did hair plugs again. He's done medical procedures. So are you going to tell me that he's doing all these elective cosmetic medical procedures up until while he's in office as president, but he's not checking his blood levels for his prostate? Something is incongruent here, so someone explain that to me.
I actually agree with you.
Well, Abby, you gotta understand how close the Bushes and the Bidens are.
One of the fastest forms of prostate cancer in old men, right? It is a really good question. Most of the time, as you know, when older men get diagnosed with prostate cancer, it's usually stage 3 or stage 4. But I agree with you. He's been poked, prodded, looked at, examined, blood drawn by the best of them. The question is, why did they not catch these hormone levels? Why is it that
they knew it, but they covered it up?
No, you don't know. Hold on. You don't know. I
know.
You don't know that.
I know.
No,
I ran a blood lab. I know.
Knowing means that you have the evidence to support what was going on. What I'm saying is maybe one of these doctors made a fucking mistake and didn't tell the truth.